Hey, I'm Darnell Barkman, and it's late at night here in Manila. And I want to nerd out and talk to all y'all a little bit about Star Wars. So, you guys remember that scene in Star Wars where Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke and Han and Chewie and C-3PO and R2-D2 are flying away from Tatooine in A New Hope, in the first movie from the 70s. And Luke is doing this thing with the lightsaber, and he's getting shot in the butt by this robot that's trying to trick him, and he's supposed to block it. And he gets shot in the butt a couple times, and Obi-Wan says, you gotta feel it, you gotta feel the Force. And Han Solo walks up and he sits down, he goes, a whole bunch of Hokey religion, ain't nothing compared to blaster at your side. And Luke's kind of discouraged, and Obi-Wan says something wise like, oh, you don't understand the power of the Force. And then alarm goes off, Luke gets shot in the butt again, Han kind of laughs, and he has to go to a different room. And then Luke has to cover up his eyes and do the same thing, but cover up his eyes and use his emotion and reach out with the Force to block this robot from shooting him in the butt and in the leg. And he actually does it. And it flips up the shield, and he says to Obi-Wan, I actually did it. I felt it. And Obi-Wan says, yeah, you're going to grow into this. It's true. It's real. That moment is what I think a lot of us Christians need to realize the wisdom in the way of Jesus, especially when it comes to all this global violence. Because I felt like I had the emotion of that realization. Wow, this works. Years ago, when I was working in the southern Philippines, when I was just married, and I was hanging out with Muslims, and I was hanging out with some military leaders, and they said the only way for Christians and Muslims to actually have peace in the southern Philippines is for Christian farmers to be able to sell rice to Muslim fishermen, and vice versa. And it was simple. It was Jesus saying, love your neighbor. And this military leader who had no reference to Jesus was telling me this. And these Muslim leaders who had very little conscious reference to Jesus were saying, this is what we need at the community level. And I was just sitting here thinking to myself, that's the church. What they're describing for peace and reconciliation to happen is they need the church in the community loving their neighbor. So when I thought of this Star Wars reference, and I see this, a Hokey religion is nothing compared to a blaster at your side, and Luke's realization that, wow, this is real, the Force is real, Jesus is real, what he said is the most logical option. It actually works at the community level.